Take your butt down to O'Shag Hennessy's office right now and tell him what you did today on the Manspace. Welcome to the Manspace podcast. We're your hosts, Doctors Matt Brown and Rob Porter, and clinical therapist Mike Porter. Welcome, Spacemen. Tyler, you got to keep it together when I do that part.
You got it.
It's too late. I already did it. We're going now. You're on. So be cool.
Yeah, we don't redo anything.
So that our listeners know, Spacemen, we are sitting here with Dr. Tyler Howe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler. You're double mastered doctor?
That's correct. 2 masters
Double
and a
buttressed.
doctorate degree. Double buttressed. Thank you. Never thought of it that way, but thank you.
I was just thinking to myself.
What are the 2 masters in?
Oh, that's a good idea.
I got a master's in math education, and I got a master's in ed leadership, educational
And then
leadership.
the PhD is it
Also
a
in ed
PhD?
leadership. It's an EDD, an education doctorate degree.
Those are a joke.
Dime a dozen.
Who doesn't have an EDD?
Do you make your employees call you Dr. Howe?
Actually, no. I'm quite intentional about the opposite because my dissertation was on faculty trust in the principal.
Yeah.
And the factor that I learned had a negative correlation to trust was the level of a principal's education. So the more education you have, the less your principals trust you.
Wow.
So emphasizing doctor by correlation has the potentiality of decreasing trust in the principal. At least in my study. You know how those
I was
studies
going to
go.
say, I want to ask questions about this, but you should probably, for people listening, tell us what it is you do.
That is a great idea. I am a school principal in Granite School District in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been a principal for 15 years at the elementary, the junior high, and the high school levels. Most recently, I just have concluded being the principal at Granger High School, the largest high school in the state of Utah. And I've moved into a position of supervising the 8 high schools as I'm the Assistant Superintendent in Granite School District now. So this is my first year where I'm a building level principal, and there's some heartache with that. I really like that job, and this job is good too, but it lacks some of the magic of being a principal at a building level.
You were at Granger for how long?
I was at Granger for 3 years, and I was at Westlake for the 6 before that. And Westlake feeds Granger, so I had a lot of the same kids for a long spell.
9 years.
Yeah, and actually I was at Armstrong, the elementary that feeds Westlake before that. So some kids I've had from kindergarten to graduation, which was super cool. Well, it was cool for me. They're pretty sick of me, but I really liked it.
I'm not sure that's true, Tyler.
Nah, you get sick of the same person.
I like that, Tyler, you sound very professional.
Oh, well, thank
And
you. I'm
was
very
thinking,
professional, but not usually when I'm with you.
well, for the Spacemen, we've talked before about how my cousin Tyler and I have the 8 crazy nights of Rob and Ty. So all I can think during this is, as Tyler's talking about, I do this, and now I'm in this advisory role and this, and I'm like, oh yeah. And also remember how we have the second 7th night that's mysterious where we watch a scary movie.
Well, there's 2 sides to all of us, I guess.
Well, here's where we're going to jump in. Spacemen, some of you will really love this. We'll wander around after Tyler gets off because he's got other meetings he has to get to. But we brought Dr. Howe on today because we are going to talk about, I guess in general, the cell phone ban in schools that's happening. And Tyler actually has some pretty unique perspectives and experience on that. Correct me if this is wrong, Ty. I don't know if this is true, but at your high school, were you guys like the first high school to start locking stuff up in the state?
I believe so, at least at the level that we did. It's hard for me to no, that's the case. It's a big state with a lot of schools, and I obviously am not able to compare notes with all of them. But to my knowledge, we had a lot of news groups. I was in touch with the governor and actually specifically the first lady of Utah, who was very involved with this initiative. And from feedback from them, my understanding is, yeah, we were probably the first to take this strong of a line at a high school level.
So what's the line you took?
We actually intentionally did not call it a cell phone ban, and maybe this is semantics, but we were trying to adopt a phone-free learning environment. So that was the language we used. At Granger, we are a phone-free school. Within the building, when you came into the building, your phone had to be locked into a pouch that magnetically sealed and kept in that pouch until you left the building, either at the end of the day or if you were checked out earlier. That while you were in the building, you had possession of your phone because you kept that pouch in your own bag, but it was locked away where you couldn't open it yourself. To unlock it, the students would simply walk by the unlocking stations on their way out, and they could tap their phone to unlock that magnetic seal. And then they had their pouch ready for the next day, but they were able to take their phone out and start using it again after that. So to my knowledge, in the state of Utah, we were the first high school that did a bell to bell. While you're inside this building, your phone is locked away. Lots have plans or initiatives that were more centered around instruction time. So during the time they were in class, they needed to have their phones put away. And ours went a step further and said, no, we're expecting the phones to be away during passing time and at lunchtime as well.
So why did you opt to do this?
It was a discussion that got started from teachers. I had teachers approach me and say, we have got to do something more intentional about our cell phones. We, like everybody else, had a cell phone policy that just was impossible to enforce and really was borderline ignored by kids and teachers alike because it was impossible to enforce. It's a real challenge when you say, hey, cell phones need to be kept put away, that at just that level, it becomes a 24/7 policing process for the teachers. They're needing to monitor and watch and pounce on students at all times of, hey, your phone's out, let me take it. Your phone's out, and it's just, it never ends. So that's where the teachers approached me. And actually, one of the teachers who approached me was specifically looking at the pouches that in the end we did adopt. I will say I pushed back on that, said the last thing I want to do is design our policies around a product. I think we need to philosophically decide what it is we're aiming for. We did quite a dive into the book, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, and took some thoughts and ideas from there of philosophically what we were trying to get at. But we wanted that to be what drove us rather than the cart being in front of the horse of, hey, here's a vendor who's got a tool they say is going to fix all of our problems. Now, that being said, we ended up adopting those, but it was one of 4 finalists that our community council and our staff were considering of what tool we were going to use to get there. Now, why the bell to bell? That was probably the most polarizing decision of the whole thing. But the reason we leaned into that was from some of the literature, the idea of, we go to school not just for the teacher telling the kid what it is they need to learn. If that were the case, I think there'd be a lot more people who do, online school or homeschool type things. A big reason the 3,400 kids come to my school is because they value this in-person learning environment. Now, it's in person between a student and a teacher, but it's in person between a student and classmates. And there is a huge part of our education that comes from that. I fancy myself a pretty good educator, and I do not feel qualified to get my own children um, educated the way I'd like them to if I were just teaching them at home. And I'm not trying to say what my outlook is and philosophical approach to education is everybody's, but I just don't think I could ever have educated my own kids like the public school could, because a big part of the education I wanted my kids to have comes from what is it like being in the lunchroom? What is it like having a classmate you're not getting along with? What is it like walking down those hallways? So if that is really a big part of why we're in schools and what we're trying to get from this educational experience, then the phones are affecting those other times, the lunchroom time, the hallway time. And that's where we did decide to go down the path of we're going to lock them up until the end of the day, including lunch and including hallway passing time. The other reason we were willing to go that route is we thought, a lot of literature is pushing us that way. It would be far easier to start restrictive and decide later, hey, let's give some allowance at lunchtime, than it would ever be to have them all open at lunchtime and decide 3 months later, let's lock them up at lunchtime too. So it was a little bit of selling the ticket kind of thing of saying, hey, we're going to start with this line, and if we think it's appropriate, then we might loosen that up. And in the end, we never did. We kept it that way throughout. We considered it going into fourth quarter, and it was unanimous from our community council that we are hitting the target like never before. Why would we disrupt this? And so we didn't. So Granger has continued to have a bell-to-bell phone-free learning environment is the model right now.
One of the first questions I have, because I've talked to clients, Texas, maybe this year, and I think Matt and I were looking at this, at least 23, maybe up to 33 states now have like at least some sort of policy, if not a ban.
Yeah, Missouri does.
Texas has said it's just a straight ban. You can't have any phone during school hours, bell to bell, correct? Although I know kids still do every once in a while. I think my son is still like sending me a text. I don't, so they don't lock ours.
What?
Yeah, they don't lock ours up. But
I get text from my kid.
Some parents have been really angry about it. Because what I want to know first is like, what has been some of the reactions that you saw? And then I also want to know, and we'll get to this, but what were the effects that you saw at the school? But first, what kind of kickback did you get from parents?
So we started this before Utah had a law on the books.
They do now, right?
They do now, and that was going into this school year. Okay. So it wasn't present last year, and so we kind of felt like we were ahead of the curve of that. Our governor did send out a letter inviting all community councils and schools to seriously look at a phone-free policy for their schools. But that's all it was. It was by invitation. We actually were already in the discussion with our community council when that letter came out. And I liked that the letter came out because it was reinforcing for what we were doing. That being said, it was difficult for some parents. There was the worry of, oh my goodness, what are we going to do if there's an emergency and there's a threat on campus or a school shooter or all these different what ifs of what they would be concerned about. I need my student to have their phone. So those surfaced a lot, and understandably, they were surfacing. I was hearing from the people who had opinions about that, and that's a little bit of a response bias. It took me until we started it the first week of school to realize that, hey, the voices I've been hearing that way are not representative of the general population. How I know that is because the first week, we actually had a system in place that as we were checking kids to make sure they had their phones in their pouch, if the kid said to us, I don't have a phone, or my parents and I decided to keep a phone at home, we had a very scripted almost response to that of no problem. We just need to log that, and it will communicate with your parent saying that's the report you gave us. So the teachers all had a Google form. They'd put the student ID number in for that situation. It would automate an email to Robert Porter and say, hey, your student has let us know he doesn't have a phone here at school.
I got a lot of emails.
If that's not the case, can you let us know? And then it would have one final line. Good communication between the school and parent really helps us maintain a phone-free environment. And I got that first week over 1,000 responses, which is funny because the email said only respond if your kid lied to us. It didn't say it that way, but that's what it was saying. It was saying, if that's not the case, can you let us know? But I got responses from both sides. Those who are like, hey, he's lying to you. He's got a phone. And I got plenty of responses from, that's correct. We decided with the phone-free policy that we're just going to keep it at home. And of the over 1,000 responses, all but one expressed gratitude for what we were doing or it remained neutral. There was one that said, I can't believe you're doing this. This is so stupid. So it was interesting that all of a sudden I was hearing from an audience that just hadn't vocalized anything because they were okay with it. And that said to me, hey, they're way more on board than I was worried. Because I was hearing from people that were the ones going, this is crazy. You have no right to do this. I mean, I had some who were threatened to sue us because we were taking away their constitutional right to have their kid have access to a phone. I'm like, what? Schools have always restricted stuff.
75th Amendment.
Yeah, I mean, schools have always said, you can't bring this, you can't bring that. I mean, it was the same kind of thing. It was interesting to hear some of that pushback. So actually, when we first launched the plan, we did it in the summertime to say, hey, when you come back, this will be the plan. You knew this was coming. And I took screenshots of I called it my mean tweets slide. And I put that up on on the PowerPoint presentation when the teachers came back, because most of it was directed at me. I was the principal who was the communicator of this, which I kind of chuckled about, I'm the one relaying the message, and I'm not trying to divorce I was involved with it, but this was very much informed by the entire staff and the entire community council of parents, but they became hilarious to put them up there on the screen and say, all right, this is the response, mostly from students. My favorite one was, I can't believe you would do this, Mr. Howe. This is crazy, even for you. And then it said, the Hunter Wolverines, they're our rivals. The Hunter Wolverines would never do this. So every time I see the principal at Hunter, I'd say, Hunter would never do this. But I put that up in front of the faculty because I said, guys, yes, the pouches cost us some money, and that's not nothing. It's something. But to me, what price are we paying? This is our political capital. It's my political capital I'm putting out on the line here. And I'm okay to do it. I'm okay to be the lightning rod for this. I'm willing to be the lightning rod so you don't have to be. You can blame me too. You can say to the kids, hey, why are we doing this? Well, because Mr. Howe's told us we have to. Blame me. I'm fine with it.
Hey, yeah, you got an incoming call, Ty.
That's what he's not okay with, man.
Yeah, his recording is stopped. He clearly did not put it in Do Not Disturb.
Oh, that guy. It's okay. It'll be a good transition when he comes back. He's only going to have a couple more minutes.
Yeah.
And I want to find out what he saw.
The benefits.
Yeah, because for listeners, one of the things that, Matt, you sent us an article about what they were seeing in Kentucky in terms of a significant increase in checking out of books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe ask him for like his top three, positive impacts from it or something. That way we can scratch David W's itch.
David W. is going to start being like, guy. What if Tyler's sitting there right now trying to talk to us? Oh, no. I think what's interesting, and we'll come back to this after he's off. I wrote down a couple of things that was interesting that he talks about. We really wanted to make sure that philosophically we knew what we were trying to get from this.
Yeah.
And I think there's too many parents, even in our own houses, where we don't think through, why am I doing the thing I'm doing other than I'm quote unquote supposed to do this?
Right.
Well, sorry.
No, go for it.
I was going to say there's a practice in education called backward design.
Here
he
Talk
comes.
about it later.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Tyler, you're back.
Apologies.
There you go, buddy.
Yeah.
Tyler,
I'm
because we know you only have you only have 7 minutes left ish. Matt was just kind of asking, what were we'll say the top three things that you felt like this is the biggest effect that we had that was so impactful and why you think this is valuable for everyone to do?
Some were what we hoped for. Some were not what we predicted. And all of them are correlational. I mean, it's very hard in education to say that anything is a cause and effect relationship.
Right.
But we were hoping this would improve student learning. And we did see pretty concrete evidence of that. We track our failure rate every single quarter and compare it to the failure rate of the same quarter from the year before. Failure rate is very important in high schools because it ties to credit. And if you lose the credit, you're off track to graduate.
Right.
And we saw the most significant jumps in our failure rate for each of those quarters compared to anything we'd ever done before. It was typically anywhere from 3 to 4% lower than the exact same quarter from the year before. So that was huge. And we unpacked that with the teachers and said, that means this many fewer Fs than the year before. This many fewer instances where a kid failed and has lost the credit than the year before. That was a really big one. Our attendance improved. And that one, we were kind of like, why would this have anything to do with attendance? And this is just our working theory. It's a lot easier to slough when you've all got phones. Because you text and go, I don't want to go third period. You want to go to McDonald's? And, yeah, let's go. So that was just a little harder to do that kind of a thing. The one that was maybe the most exciting was we had fewer than half the number of fights last year with this policy than we had previously. So again, how does that correlate? I think in a few ways. Like the sloughing one, a lot of the fights and the drama, they don't start as a spontaneous thing in the lunchroom, like, I think we think is going to happen. It's building online throughout the day, and there's back and forth and a lot of, challenging language going on that's being communicated via the phones. Additionally, fights happen a lot more because they're getting filmed and posted. So, the kids will gather there, and all of a sudden, they don't just have an audience of 2 or 3. The 2 or 3 who are watching are filming or live doing a live stream of it in some social media app or other. And it increases their desire to not back down. They've got an audience. They know they've got an audience, and they don't want to look weak in front of that audience. So to see that data of, oh my gosh, we just in a challenging school removed more than half of the fights was a huge deal for us. So we were pretty excited about that. A quick disclaimer I think I need to make sure I give on this is I described what our policy was and what kids were expected to do. I need to acknowledge that we had it on pretty good authority that the vast majority of kids were not locking their phones in those pouches. They were locking a phone, or, we call them burner phones, in their pouch.
Yeah.
And then they would keep their phone somewhere that they could access it. And I just share that because everyone's like, oh my goodness, that school found the trick. We want that exact same thing. The best way I could describe it, it became the Dumbo's feather for us. It was such a stark line in the sand that even though I knew that the vast majority of students did not have them locked like they were supposed to, the phones didn't come out. Which is funny because our policy the year before was phones need to be kept locked away in your pockets or in backpacks. And they were out constantly. Because the new line in the sand was your phone has to be locked in a pouch. If any phone was out, it wasn't this argument with a kid of like, what are you doing on your phone? And the kid saying, oh, I'm just checking the time. I'm putting it right away. It was such a black and white line to say, why is your phone out of its pouch? The other thing that was nice about it was instead of a power struggle of your phone's out, give it to me, the response was your phone's out. We've got a phone-free environment. Do you have your pouch with you? And almost always they did because they like to use it to pretend that they had their phone locked up. We'd open the pouch. We'd take the fake phone out. We'd hand it to them and say, take that home and please don't bring it back. We'd put their real phone in. We'd lock it up. And who had the pouch and phone at that point? The kid did. So this power struggle went away because we'd lock it up and we'd hand it to them. Now, the great part about it is my teachers would log, hey, I just had to remind Rob to lock up his phone in his pouch. And on the back end, our spreadsheet was keeping track of, hey, this is Rob's 4th time doing that. And then we would call Rob down in the office, private, away from class, and say, dude, this is the 4th time you have had to have a reminder and have your pouch locked or your phone locked up in the pouch. Because it's the 4th time, we need to hold it for you and have a parent come pick it up. So the deterrent worked pretty well. That it wasn't a big confrontation for the teacher. And then on the back end, we were able to have those elevated consequences take place. So I just wanted to add that, because if I signed off on this without acknowledging that, I think it would be misleading. That our game plan and what really happened were not one and the same, but we kept reminding ourselves as a staff of, do we really care about the pouches, or do we care about the phone-free environment? And we all agreed we care about the phone-free environment. We said, well, we're getting what we want then.
Right.
What do we really care if it's locked or not? Let's not fight them on it. We're getting the goal of what we were aiming for.
Well, and I know you got to go, so we really appreciate being on. I will say, I think that's interesting, that the acknowledgement that they were still doing it, but there was some degree in their minds, it seems like, of they had control of something still.
Yeah.
Even when you gave the phone back in the pouch, they still have control. So it feels like they're put one over on you or whatever it is. But just because that control's there, it's like now they can still follow the rule, but they have this sense of ownership and control that I think is interesting.
At that age, I think is huge.
Agreed.
Like, teenagers love, like, I'll often get asked, like, how do I connect so well with teenagers? And I'm like, because I just talk to them like they're a person. Like, I don't know what to tell. Like, parents are like, how do you? And I'm like, they're just a person to me. Like, it doesn't. And I think, like, I've watched Tyler for years. Tyler was kind of instrumental in the teacher that I was, and he has that gift for sure. Like, the ability to just kind of to interact with these kids and see them for the people they are, as opposed to the student, the troublemaker, the whatever. Like, he just sees them for who they are. And I think that kind of relationship that you're able to develop probably goes a long way in getting buy-in.
I wasn't laughing at you, Mike. I was laughing at Rob's facial expression at your comment.
Well,
I wasn't worried.
Your words are very significant to me, so thank you.
And Rob ruined it. Well, Dr. Howe, thank you for taking time out of a schedule to come and talk with us today. I'm sure we'll try to find a way to have you on.
Yeah, this is an important issue, so I love that you're talking about it.
Well, thank you, and you can get back to your meeting. I'll see you at the 8 Crazy Nights of Rob and Ty.
See you there, 2nd, 7th night. Looking forward to it.
All right, see you, buddy. See ya.
See ya.
All right, so Mike, go back to this idea. Whatever you were using some term
I was talking about.
Yeah.
So it's an approach to lesson planning is what it's for, called backward design. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is, you look at this, here's the concept that needs to be taught. And the first thing you ask is not, what are the points that I need to teach?
Mm-hmm.
It's, what is the knowledge I want them to walk away with? And once you know what you're trying to, like, this is what I want them to walk away with, then it becomes a game of, all right, well, how's the best way for them to really get that knowledge? Is it this activity? Is it this project? Is it this test? What is it that's going to help us get from where we are to this end goal? But it keeps the focus on, this is the understanding I want them to walk away with.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of teachers, like I had, to me, when I learned it, it was a game changer in how I lesson planned. I loved it. And Utah pushed that direction a lot. Like, they started kind of building their, district wide, their curriculum around that idea of backward design. You could see it everywhere. When I moved to Texas, I got a lot of pushback from other teachers on it. They didn't like it. But hearing Tyler talk about it, I'm like, well, yeah, that's just backward design.
Yeah.
It's that idea of understanding. And I love the idea that looking at it and saying, like, oh yeah, this has value in, like, outside of education. Looking at, we do it with clients. What is it you want out of this experience?
Right.
Like, what is it you want to, when you're all done in here, what do you want to walk away with? And then let's figure out how to get you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that I wanted to be able to, we didn't have time for, but I wanted to ask him about the comparison, if he had any, to other schools who weren't doing this at the time, just to see I mean, this is a new enough thing. I don't know how there could be really, I guess I'll say widespread detrimental effects from this. I can understand that there would be a situation, for example, where somebody says essentially that, you know, this terrible thing happened at a school, a shooting, for example, and I couldn't get a hold of my kid.
Yeah.
I think that will be so far fewer than the benefits that will come from this that I feel like it is interesting to me when parents talk about the kickback, you know, parents who don't like it. I feel like, what is it you don't like? It just seems to be only positive effects. And I don't know, I don't know if you guys had something specific, because the thing you sent, I kind of read through it quickly, but that idea just that the checking out library books had increased. Was there other things that I missed in there that was like, here's other things we're seeing?
Like in the original post?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was mainly that. It was, but I think he spoke to that, I think, with his first point that the fail rate went down.
Yeah.
I don't know what 3 to 4%. I don't know what percentage of students were failing anyway, and what 3 to 4% of that represents, but I think any decrease in that is awesome. I was curious too, like, do you guys remember when cell phones first became a thing? I remember
2000, basically, when I got off my mission, everyone was going crazy about them. I was like, what is the deal?
So I got back in 2003.
Okay.
Beginning of 2003. And I didn't have a phone on my mission at all, or before. It wasn't really a thing. I just remember coming out of class. So it would have been 2 years in between me being a student. But I remember coming out of class and like immediately seeing people pull out their phone and look at it. And I don't know what it was about that experience that made me think of this, but it was like, we just solved the problem of feeling awkward and alone.
Yep.
Like that, right?
Ironically.
Yeah, I know. But you no longer have to deal with that emotion in the same way.
Yeah.
And I was curious what has happened, because these kids, it's like, for the most part, probably the soonest they felt it, there was already something in place to alleviate it, right? And kids younger, maybe elementary school, don't have that same feeling, but I was curious what maybe school counselors are saying about mental health or relational interactions, like lunchtime, things like that. What looks different there? Are kids becoming more confident socially? Are they, or they're, it's weird. It's like the thing that solves the problem of withdrawing increases withdrawing. But when you take it away, what happens? Are there still a lot of kids struggling to engage? And he's got the unique perspective of having done it for a full year.
Right.
Whereas a lot of these teachers we would talk to that just started it this year would have about a month's worth of data. But I'd be curious what those are three, like the three that he talked about are, I think, probably the most impactful for a school. But then as a parent, I would want to know like what's happening for my kids socially, what's happening for my kid with their own sense of who they are. And those are probably harder to observe if you're not asking people directly. But
I think what's interesting is even if you just talk to parents who take their phone away from their kid for whatever, a consequence or so. I've known some parents where it's like no phone during the summer. They almost always, the parents will tell me my kid was in a much better, like they were happier, they were
nicer,
kinder, they got better sleep, all these factors. Like I said, I can't imagine an argument for like I'm not getting rid of my phone. I'm not about to go. I think my niece's husband, who works for us like a company, I think it's called Gab. It's like a smartphones for kids kind of thing. It's very locked down, or phones for kids. Maybe it's not smartphones, but and I think she was saying he went back to a flip phone. Like, no, not smart. And I don't know that I'm there because I still like playing games on my phone.
Yeah.
But I do think for sure getting like not using social just for like 2 or 3 days now. I've just decided I'm not touching any social media, and my mood has elevated. Now, kind of like what Tyler was saying, that could be correlational to a number of factors, and I'd need more time to really say this. And even with what we're talking about with Tyler, with his high school, that's a sample of one high school. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens across all these states that have done these bans.
Yeah.
And then B, what happens to those states after like 5 years, or because this will have to be a longitudinal, because we can't directly say either phones are the cause of all these kids' anxieties. That's pretty. Looks. You watch those correlations go up, and it sure looks like it. But
Yeah.
Well, and there is anxieties are always going to be a thing no matter what. Like, yeah, sure, we took away the awkwardness of having to be alone in a room and not have, to not know anybody. Like, I think of how different your first day of high school in Seattle would have been, Rob, if you had a phone, right? Like, it wouldn't have been quite the thing. But I, like watching even just my own kids, I think, right, but you don't push yourself outside the circle as much either. Like, because they have that, it's like, well, I'm like everybody else when I'm on my phone. And so I don't have to push myself. And so already, like, yes, Jane has been like at the school for a year, but I mean, already just like this first, and this is an interesting, like her school is a little bit loose on it, I think. She's like, I have my phone out a lot during the day. She's like, and I still have headphones in.
My kids cannot do that.
Her hair hides it. So she can keep one in. And she just has music playing. But she's already she's going to homecoming this weekend with a group of girls that are girls she didn't know when the school year started.
Yeah.
But I think, she gets into a room and doesn't have the ability to just pull out her phone and openly be on it. And so she's forced to kind of interact with some of these kids around her in a different way. And so to me, I look at it and I think, yeah, there's still anxieties. There's still the anxiety of, what are they going to think? What if I say something stupid? What if I do this or that? But it's a shared anxiety. Everyone feels it. And ultimately, I think they're finding, all right, we're still like, we can do this. We can do this interaction kind of thing.
Yeah, even if it's, I think maybe that post said it on one of the slides. Even if it's just that many hours less per day, per week, exposed to, I mean, not just the phone, but exposed to, kind of like we talked about last week, all the comparisons, all the thinking about who is thinking about me or not, right? With the fights, who's watching me, who's not. I would have to think that has a big positive impact. I think before, I don't know what the numbers are on this, but I've heard roughly you can only have like 150 acquaintances. That's kind of our max.
Yeah. So I've heard
and
something
so many
similar.
short, so many close friendships. So if you take social media, even without, having that many connections on social media, it's like already I'm thinking about this person who I've never met, right? Already I'm like trying to aspire to be like this person who I've never met, but everybody loves, right? All of these connection points that just exhaust us socially and don't provide anything good. If you shrink that down, what starts to happen to trust, to deeper connections, to communication, and what organic types of, again, this would take time, but what organic types of get-togethers and social experiences could come, kind of like you're saying, not just because phones are out of the way, but because of what's happening in the place where the phones were.
Right.
And yeah, that was why I was wondering, like, yeah, how does lunch look different? How does like between class stuff look different? Yeah, are people actually seeing each other yet or not. I don't know. But yeah, my daughter, same thing. She says there's a few teachers where they're like, whatever,
Yeah.
do what you want.
Oh,
I don't care.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, to me, part of why this was probably successful at his school was because he had buy-in.
And he sounds like he was really deliberate about creating that too, which is awesome.
Yeah. And that's like, to me, I look at it like I was a little bit disappointed with the article. Like, I thought it was cool, some of the correlations that they found, right, in reading and stuff like that. But I was like, I was more interested in the social aspect, right?
That's so early to say, though. Yeah, go ahead.
I know, but I was like, I was just curious. Like, I kind of expected that to be right. Like, here was the unintended consequence. We thought we were going to help improve reading or this or that, but in what we found is kids were engaging with each other. We're like, that's kind of what I expected the article to be. But I like looking at it from what does this have to do with families and parents and relationships? And I think with parents, and I talk to parents about this all the time. I'm like, you guys have to have, you guys have to have, Matt.
Sorry, Spaceman. Matt sent a very funny text,
which we can't share, but it successfully distracted all three of us.
You can pay for it.
Continue.
You can be one of our extras after the show.
Yeah.
Send Matt $5. He'll share the text with you.
Can you finish that thought?
No, like having parent buy-in, like when I always talk a lot with the parents that I'm working with. Like, look, you need to be on the same page when you talk to your kid. Like, your kids can't know that mom or dad's going to be the soft one.
Agreed.
I gotta not look at Rob. Agreed.
I want to keep going this, so I stop laughing. I was thinking about this in terms of, because I don't know that I would go home and this stuff makes me think all the time. Should I go home and take my kids' phones away?
Yeah.
I think one of the things we've tried to be deliberate with our kids about, be very aware of like what you're consuming, how you're consuming it, how much you're consuming. But I'm also not ignorant to the idea, just like Tyler wasn't, that like, I'm sure they're doing stuff that I'm like, dude, don't consume that.
Right.
You're doing too much. Or, I mean, for a little while, one of my kids, it was like, he'd walk up and down the stairs staring at his phone. And I'm like, dude, eventually we had to like, stop. You can't touch your phone in the morning. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I think it's not so much that I think parents need to go home and say, no more phones because I listen to this podcast or because the state's doing this, but they need to, I do think that actually his statement about being deliberate, saying like, well, what are we actually trying to get for our kids? Like for some parents, for example, you mentioned school, and I want my kids to get that social element, the awkward things that you have to confront and interact with. And some parents, parents who choose to homeschool, it's like, I want my kids to get a pure education where I'm in charge of what's being taught. And for some parents, it's like school is full of hateful, terrible things. But they're being deliberate about what they're looking for. So you have to start thinking through, hey, if I want this thing for my kid, is this other thing, is the phone getting in the way of that? If I want my kid to be somebody who's self-reliant and confident in their choices they make, is the phone getting in the way of that? And in a lot of ways, the answer is yes, probably. Emotionally speaking, all the research we shows a pretty strong correlation between those, like the rise of cell phone use and anxiety and all sorts of other things. But
well, and I do think like there's right, because I one of the things I hear most often is like, I just want my kid to be outside doing stuff.
Yeah,
and I think that's great if your kid's in elementary school. Where kids play outside.
Yeah.
Teenagers, they don't play outside so much. Like,
but I did I did hang out with other people.
Me too. But I think, again, it just comes back to this idea of, like, my daughter will often, I mean, half the time it's TikTok, but often she'll be laughing at something and it's something that her friend texted her. And I'm like, right, she's actually interacting with people. Would I prefer she was interacting with them in person? Well, yeah, obviously.
Right.
But I think, yeah, it's different. And so again, it's just that idea of just be aware of what you're trying to accomplish. And be aware of, like, to me, one of the things I started looking at, and I still like, I'm looking for ways to not, I want to go back to a flip phone so bad.
It sounds awesome.
And that's like, the only phone or the only games I have on my phone anymore are the New York Times. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. I have Tetris. I got rid of Candy Crush.
Yeah. I got rid of Candy Crush. I got rid of Block Blast. I got rid of all of them. All I have is the New York Times and the LinkedIn puzzles.
Is that an app?
What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I downloaded the app.
Okay, keep going.
Anyway, but I had to look at and say, well, how do I feel about how I'm spending my time? Like, it's great that I want my kids to be off, but am I doing that? Or am I just on my, like, when I go to a meeting where I'm uncomfortable, do I pull out my phone or do I push to start a conversation with the person next to me? And that's, often, no, I'll pull out my phone. Right. And I've in the last couple of years tried to make conscious decisions to not do that. The last time I flew on a plane,
raw dogged it
to not. Okay,
that's what they call it. Did you miss the whole raw dogging thing?
It's when you have no technology.
You just sit on the plane and stare.
Yeah, and that's like typically I like movies enough that once I'm flying, I'm like, no, I'm turning on a movie.
Yeah.
But I usually wait until the people around me are like in their own stuff. Because then I'm like, well, if they want to talk to me, they can. But if they're going to, be in a movie, I'm going to be in a movie. But I just decided, right? Like, no, I just want to start seeing what's around me.
Yeah.
I want to stop disappearing into this world, mostly of things I don't care about. They're things that either make me angry or things that make me feel like I'm not enough, or things that, like, most of it's not very uplifting. And so I'm just like, yeah, I'm all done with this. But again, I had to start looking to me before I could say to my kids, hey, you should really be watching what you're doing. Am I watching what I'm doing?
Right.
Or am I doing the thing that I'm hoping my kids won't?
So I don't think I have like 3 points from this. I think it was I wish we could have had more time with Tyler because he's got a unique perspective, but I don't have the DW3. That's what I'm going to call it. I wonder if David W is like, oh, you got
never giving feedback again.
I thought it was good feedback, and actually,
no, it is.
I think I want to try to incorporate that whenever I can. But
well, maybe he becomes the new. We got the patron saint, the angel investor, and DW3.
The DW3,
the DW3,
DW Trace. Well, I guess
before we end, I think it's important to let the spacemen know I got nailed in the head with a freaking shingle yesterday.
Yeah,
oh, that's right. We didn't wander around a little bit.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Oh, dude, I was telling my brother about it last night and laughing. Couldn't finish my sentence because I ended up forgetting to lock the door when I left, so I had to come back up here at like 9 to lock the front door. But I'm walking out the door and the shingle hits me in the head and I fall down the stairs. Knocked the reminder out of my head. I forgot to lock the door.
I told Matt, I'm just going to read the first part of this because I could not stop laughing. I was trying to read this out loud to my kids. and we get a text from Matt with a picture of his head where he got hit, where there's a little bit of blood. And then it just says, so those buttholes dropped a shingle on my head when I was leaving, which made me fall down the steps. He said those buttholes.
Oh man, the part that made me the most mad was, well, long story short, all day, like, severe pounding above my head, and then the morons like knocked the valve off of my my water main, so I had no water yesterday. I couldn't use the bathroom.
Have they actually fixed that?
They had a plumber come out.
Dude, your store is like, what is happening here?
I know, dude. I don't know why this stuff happens to me, but like I go out there once the plumber was here. I think I knew he was. Yeah, I saw him come up, and then he was working for a while. So I was just going down to check to see where he was at with it. I go out there, like the water main is like sheared in half, and water is flying everywhere. He's like soaked. He's like, hey. It's like, where do I shut the water off? I'm like, dude, you're the plumber. I don't know.
Hey, how do I make the pipe stop spitting water at me?
He's like, I was like, maybe by the street. I don't know. So we go out there. He's like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm like, why didn't you check that first, dude?
This dude's the plumber?
Yeah. The maintenance and like the contractors that have been hired to work on this building are like beyond incompetent. And so anyway, like we're at the beginning of the day, we had a few clients coming and go, and then we just had to cancel everybody. But it was like, crap. I was like, hey, maybe we should take an umbrella out there and just walk and make sure we don't get hit in the head with anything, because no one was watching anybody, and you couldn't, if you looked up there to tell them to stop, you might get nailed in the face.
Yeah.
So I figured by that point, like they had stripped everything and they were just laying the new shingles. So that was when I left. So I figured I was good. Nope. Brand new, huge chunk of shingle, just like, bam, like the sharp end hits me right in the head. And,
oh my gosh.
Oh man.
That's just a special treat.
Yeah.
Right.
This is, it does make me feel like, oh, what? The plumber didn't know what he was doing either? I don't know. Who am I supposed to call?
No, I told you guys about the guy that,
your AC guy?
oh no.
That guy was terrible.
Timid Timmy. No, there's another guy that came. He's like the building maintenance guy.
Oh yeah.
And they came to do an inspection on the building for the sale, and they broke my GFCI outlet testing it. So I was like, so is anybody going to fix this? And they're like, oh, well, like they cut out a piece of the granite backsplash to fit over the cover. It's like, we can't. I mean, there's granite in the way. I'm like, so move the freaking granite. Like, how did you? Anyway, so he's like, the building maintenance guy doesn't even know where the breaker box is. And I'm like, I have not seen one in my unit anywhere. So he's like, maybe it's in the attic. And I'm like, well, okay, go up in the attic. So he goes up there. And then when he's closing it, you know, the attic ladders. So they've got two arms on them and springs. And this one, you go to close it, and the arms kind of go separate ways at first because one's just off. So any normal person would be like, oh, I need to move that in this direction so that this will close. He just like, bends it. And then he's like, I go out there and he's all, yeah, it won't close. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you bent the arm. And he's like, no, it was like that. I think it's because the spring is too short on one side. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, who manufactures something and hey, let's put a shorter spring on this side? So he's like, we got to take the spring off. And I'm like, you got to take the spring off, dude. I'm not touching that thing. It's like so much tension on that. And he's like, it's real dangerous. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. He gets up there and he's like, whoa, like, trying to pull it off and finally gets it off. And so now I just have like this semi-lopsided attic access thing that, but yeah, I'm like, dude, how do I have like a PhD in therapy and know more about building maintenance than the building maintenance guy?
I think my favorite was when you were telling that story. Whatever you made, David Putty face from. It's like, oh, break it down. What are you kidding me? It's that carbogany. Well, there you have it, Spacemen. Be intentional about your kids.
And don't rent in my building.
Don't rent in Matt's building.
And then come back next time and catch us on the Manspace. Matt's building, now with more shingles.